Hello and welcome to The Inquisitive Crafter. I'm Katrina Stewart from Crafty Jacks, and today I'm talking to you all about spindles. If you're new to spinning or looking at getting into it, spindles are a great place to start. They're small, easy to learn on, and relatively inexpensive. Now there are a lot of different types of spindles in this world, and I can't possibly cover them all in one video, so I'm going to be going through some of the things that I look for and some of the things to avoid in some of the most common spindles on the marketplace. So up first is a top whirl suspended spindle, often referred to as a drop spindle. I always joke with my students that it's called a drop spindle because when we're learning, we spend more time dropping it on the floor than we do actually spinning on it. But all joking aside, what you're looking for in a suspended spindle. So suspended spindles are characterized by the yarn suspending the spindle in the air as it is spinning. What you're looking for is a shaft that runs through the center of a whirl. With a top whirl, it sits at the top of the shaft, and there's a hook or a notch at the top to suspend your yarn from. A couple of the things that you are looking for, or what I really like, is a shaft that's been turned with a bit of a point to it. This is great for sliding your leader on. I like a whirl that has a little bit of a notch in it. This just holds my yarn in place as I'm spinning, and I like a finely balanced hook. Now there's lots of different types of top whirl spindles out there. The thing about top whirl is that it really needs to be finely balanced in order to be a pleasurable spin. So if you have a hook that isn't quite balanced enough, you're going to get a lot of kick from the spindle shaft, which can make it really hard to control. If you have a spindle that is too heavy, it's also going to be really frustrating for a beginner because you can't get enough twist into your yarn before it breaks and falls and drops on the ground. So you want to look for a spindle that is about 30 to 45 grams. Anything smaller than 30 grams tends to be really light and really fast, great for lace weight, but always a little bit challenging for a beginner to learn on. Anything above 40 to 45 grams tends to be really heavy, and so you're going to be dropping your spindle a lot because you're not getting enough momentum going in it to get the twist into the yarn fast enough, and it's just the fibers just drifting apart and your spindle is falling on the ground. So those are some of the things to look for in a top whirl suspended spindle. A bottom whirl suspended spindle is very, very similar. The biggest difference between a top whirl and a bottom whirl is it doesn't need to be as finely balanced in order to make for a nice spin. Because the weight of the whirl is at the bottom, it sort of helps maintain that center of gravity for the spindle and making it easier to spin. So again, in a bottom whirl drop spindle, you have a shaft that runs through the middle of the whirl. In this case, the whirl sits at the bottom of the shaft, and there's a little notch from there to suspend your yarn. And finally, you have Turkish spindles, which are another form of a bottom whirl drop spindle. So Turkish spindles come in three parts. You have two arms and a shaft. Now the arms can either sit interlocked to each other or they can slide into each other. Then you slide the shaft into the middle of those two arms and that locks it in place. Some of the things that I love about spinning on Turkish spindles is that they're really, really easy to make a centrifugal ball. So as you wind your cop around the arms, it actually creates a centrifugal ball, which makes applying really easily later. I really love bottom whirl spindles. They add a little bit of weight to your yarn and so they create a really lovely lofty yarn. But they're also really easy to spin because you don't have the hook. So top whirl spindles are generally spun by running them up or down your leg to get the spin going into them. Whereas bottom whirl spindles are usually flicked on the shaft to get them spinning. I do a lot of spinning on Turkish spindles when I'm standing because of the being able to just flick the shaft to get it spinning. I also love to sit by my bed before I go to sleep at night and just give myself a little bit of time to spin on a Turkish spindle. Now finally there are supported spindles. Now supported spindles come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, a lot of different lengths. This one is fairly fine. It just has a little bit of weight towards the bottom of the shaft. The biggest thing about supported spindles is that they are just that, they're supported when they spin. So in this case, you would spin it in a bowl. Bowls come in different shapes and sizes. You can get ones that have a little handle that you can put between your legs to support it that way. This one will sit quite nicely on a table. The point of the spindle sits in the bowl, and you just give it a little flick to turn it. Now, with supported spindles, they're generally used for shorter fibers like yak or cotton, and they're often used to do woolen spinning. So you're using them with a carded preparation, whereas suspended spindles are generally more of a worsted spun yarn, and they're great for longer stapled fibers, ones that don't require a lot of twist to put them together. So there is some basic information about spindles. I hope that this answers some of your questions, but if you have more questions, please send your questions to ask@craftyjacks.ca. That's ask@craftyjacks.ca. If you would like us to answer those questions in a future video, we will do our best to do that. As always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one.